Hello and welcome back everyone. Today is part 17 of how to create an endless runner using Unity and C#. Today we're going to be going over putting in some touch controls as well as getting the game working on Android. So let's get started with that. We'll begin with our UI. So currently we have buttons for the play and quit. These work with the mouse, but they'll automatically work with the touch controls as well. But the thing that isn't going to work with the touch controls is when we play our game and well, obviously our jumping isn't going to work because that's tied to our space button. But the other thing that isn't going to work is the press space to restart, because again it's tied to our space button, and obviously there is no space on a touch phone. Well, on most. So we need to come down into our script, and to begin with we're just going to fix up the space problem at the end to click restart. So we need to go to our scripts and go to our UI controller script, and then in here we'll just come down to the bottom, and basically we're going to create a new one of these functions which we are using for the buttons. So we'll just copy this function, and instead of clicked quit, it'll be clicked restart. My keyboard's been a little bit silly recently. And we're obviously not going to want to do that when we do that, so we'll delete all of that. Come back up to the top of our script, and if we come down to our update, we'll see here this is where we're doing the space to see if, and we're checking if our health is on 0, and if so we're restarting the game. We won't need to check if our health is on 0 because this button is only going to be visible when we're dead. So we'll just delete this if statement, delete its brackets, and then we'll cut what it was doing from there and just put it down into our new function that we made. So now whenever we trigger this function, we'll be doing whatever we were doing up there, which is we're setting the time of the game back to 1, so the game's moving again. We're setting your health back to full health, and we're loading the level back at the start. So we'll just save that quickly. Come into Unity, and then we can come over to our like the start of our game, and come to our canvas and our panel, and this is where we have you died and restart. We can just delete our restart because that was just a text that was telling us to push the space button, but instead we're going to want a button. So we'll just come down and copy one of our buttons. We have one here called play, so we'll copy it, put it into our other panel, so now that it's only visible when this panel is visible, not when this panel is, because menu is a panel as well. So we'll just quickly restart, we'll rename this to restart, and we'll come inside of it and change its text to restart as well. And then we'll just want to reposition it. Not the text, we want to reposition the entire button. If we just move down, we'll see that it doesn't fit in there properly, so we'll change its width to 180, and then we'll reposition the button. If we put it in the same spot where the other text was, then our you died would be obscured, but we'll do that anyway, and then we'll come to you died and we'll just move that up a little bit. Okay, so now we come back to our button. We don't want it to be doing the clicked start, which will come to our script. This is clicked start, and that's what happens at the start of the game. We want to be doing clicked restart. So we come back and just change this over to the UI controller, because that's what the script's on. I mean, that is the script. We already have it tied to the object the script is on. And then we just need to go to clicked restart. Now if we press play, we just die quickly. Now we have a button there. So this button will work with the touch controls. So now we have a way to start the game again. Cool. So I might just reposition that button a little bit more. Okay, so now that we have the button, we might start with the actual touch controls for the jumping. So we're going to want to go back to our scripts and come over to our player script. If you don't have it opened yet, just open it down here. And in here, we're going to want to change these if statements, which are currently working off the space button. We're not going to want to completely remove this, as we're probably going to still want the game to work on a computer so we can test it and all that kind of stuff. So we're just going to add an extra function, well, an extra check before this one. So we'll get started with that now. Okay, so how we have it at the moment is perfectly fine for a keyboard, but we still need to make it work for a touch screen. So we're going to keep this, but at the end, we're just, well, inside of the bracket, we're going to add an OR, which is just to whatever those are called. And that basically just says do this, or, well, do this if this is true, or if whatever after this is true instead. So in here, we're going to want to have this bit as well. Control V, because we need to have the same check that we had up there. But before it, we're going to need to add our touch check. So this is another input. So we just want input dot get touch. Whoops. Get touch. And then touch 0. And we want to be checking the phase. The phase is just how long you're holding it down for, basically. Like the phase is the length of time that it's held down for, and it only happens when it's held down. Pretty sure that's basically how that works. And that is going to equal our touch phase dot begin, which just means the touch phase has begun if we have touched. And then we're also checking for this. So this is basically just like we're doing over here. We're getting a key. Over here we're getting a touch instead. We're getting the first touch. But we're just going to be getting the first touch every time because you never have 2 fingers on the screen at once. So this is basically finger 1. So we are getting the first, well, yeah, the touch that's on the screen, and we're getting how long it goes for, and it is equaling touch phase begun, which basically means it can happen. That's not really the best way to explain that, but there's like dozens of ways to do touch controls, and I'll do a video later on that's a more in-depth way of doing this, but because we have a lot to do in this video, we'll just lightly go over this. So that's our touch controls for our first jump, but we still need to do one for our second jump, so we can just copy our OR, our OR and our touch check, and copy it, and then we'll paste it down here. But the AND check is going to be the AND check down here, because it's a different one, because it's for our second jump, because these are the checks that we're enabling a double jump, basically. So now that we have in all of that, we're doing exactly the same thing down here, except for we're saying OR if we are touching the screen and is falling is true, and can double jump is true. So we're checking if we're still in the air and we can double jump and jumping again. And in this one, we're checking if we're on the ground to make sure we can jump to begin with. Cool. So now we have both of them. We'll save that. But before we can go any further, we're going to have to download some software. I'll have the links for both of this below. But the first thing you're going to need to get, well, the main thing you're going to need is the Android Studio, which is just a heap of tools for making Android apps. But to install this, you're going to need to have the Java development kit. So there'll be links for both of these down below. You'll want to install this first if you don't have it installed already, or this will tell you that you need it installed anyway before it can get installed. So for this one, you just want to come to this page and come to the top section and just find the system that you're on and get the 32-bit version if you're on 32, and get the 64-bit version if you're on a 64-bit system. So that's if you're on Windows, like I am, and if you're on Mac or Linux or whatever, just get any of the others. So once you have that, and that's fully installed, you want to come over and, well, go down to the link and get this one, and then you'll just want to download the program. This might take a little bit to install because it has to download a lot of extra packages, and then once it's fully installed, you'll be able to launch it. And when you launch it, you'll come to this screen. Whoops. You'll come to this screen, and you'll just want to come down to Configure, and then come to your SDK Manager, because this is the part that matters to Unity. And then in here, you're just going to want to wait for it to load, and then it will have all the different Android versions. So you'll just want to download whatever version you're hoping to develop for. I'm pretty sure the way it works is if you make the game for version 2.3, then obviously you're only going to be able to have 2.3 features, but it will work on every version above. If you make the game for 6.0, then it will have 6.0 features, but it won't work for anything below it. As a default, it will only come with 6.0. I'm doing this for a lower version, so I would recommend getting a lower version of the SDK, as I'm using a pretty old phone. And that is another thing that you're going to need for this tutorial is an Android phone, or at least an Android tablet or some type of Android device that can have things put onto it on an SD card, and can have apps installed on it. So now that we have that, we're just going to want to hit OK. Once you've clicked the tick, you'll want to hit apply and it will download it, and then you can hit OK. And then you have your Android Studio completely set up, and you don't need to worry about that anymore. Well, at least not really for now. So now that we have our Android Studio installed and we have Java installed, we have our touch controls working. Well, we think we do, but we haven't been able to test them yet on a device. You're going to need to change the build settings to the game. So if we just come down to File, and it's probably a good time for you to save, but if we just come down to File, Build Settings, and as you can see, at the moment, we're set to Windows. We're going to change that. Whoops, I didn't mean to launch that. Where were we? Yeah, so set to Windows. We're just going to change this over to Android. So we'll come down to Android, and then everything else there will be fine. But we need to come down to our player settings, which we can access from here. Or otherwise, we can go to Edit, Project Settings, Player. And in here, this game isn't for portrait, so to begin with we'll turn off portrait. We'll keep on auto rotation and the landscape, so they can choose which orientation they want to have their phone on, just not in portrait. We'll keep it so the status bar is hidden, and we'll just name the game. I mean, that's the company name, but we'll still just write that because then I'll just cut it. I'm just going to call this the game. The company, I'm just going to put my name. Whoops. And we're not going to worry about an icon at the moment. We can just chuck in, if you want, we can just chuck in a piece of art from our game. So we'll chuck in the thing that kills you, and that can just be our icon. So now if we come down, if we come down to other settings, and we'll just expand this out a little bit. The only other thing we really need to change is down here. We need to change this to whatever we set our company to. Whoops. And dot and the dot and then whatever the game is called. So ours is the game. Whoops. Cool. So now that we have all that set up, we'll come to File and our build settings, and we'll set up a build. So we have our scene, because we only have one scene, so that's fine. We still set the PC there, so we'll go back to Android, and yep, hit build. In here, we've got a file called builds, so I'm just going to create a new folder in here. And inside of that, we'll put our build, which will just be the game, and we'll save that. Now it's going to build our game. Depending on your computer, this might take a little while. I've got a pretty beefy computer, so it shouldn't be too bad. Although I am on a laptop. You might be able to hear the fans kicking in. Okay, cool. So now that we have that, you'll want to plug in your phone if you haven't already. And then we'll just copy that, come down to our phone, and then in here we will just paste our APK just in the in the SD card of your phone. And now that we have that, we can close that. And now we have to go to our phone. So I'm going to switch over to my other camera. Well, to my camera. Okay, so here we are with our phone. There's a little setting we're just going to have to change to begin with. So you'll just want to go to your settings, however you do that, and go to applications. This might look a little bit different on your phone, but it should be basically the same. And you just want to allow unknown sources, and this is just going to allow you to install apps not off the app market, so apps straight off your SD card. And then once you have that, you want a program for accessing your SD card, so a file manager. And we'll just open up that. And then we'll just come down to our APK, which is down here with our little icon. We'll install it. Wait for it to install. Okay, so now that it's installed, we can just hit open. Because it's landscape, it launches in landscape, so we can rotate the phone. And here we are in our game. So, like we didn't get to show before, the quit button will work. So if we hit that, we'll quit out of our game. And then we can just come back in and launch our game. So the play button will obviously work. And we have touch controls. And then when we die, we can hit restart, and we come back to the main menu. Cool. So now that we have all of that working, we can go back into our Unity. Well, I suppose when we're here quickly, I'll just show you a little project I worked on a little while ago. I think it's pretty similar. It's available on the app market. If you search my name, it's the easiest way to find it, just Dylan J. Walker. Or you can write in the fol, and it's the one with the little pixel guy holding a map. But we'll just wait for it to launch. Yeah, this is the other game I worked on. Just so I'd show it, since it's a little bit similar. So we have our settings, where we can sign in, we have links to our Twitter and all that kind of stuff, but we'll just go home. We have our store, which will be implementing something similar to this into our game eventually. So we don't have enough money to unlock anything at the moment, but as you can see, we've unlocked a few things. Go back to the home. We have high scores and achievements, all that kind of stuff. Ads, but press play. And yeah, the little guy walks out of the bush and falls. And it's basically just an endless runner, but you're constantly falling. But yeah, if you want to check that out, it's available in the App Store. I might have a little link to that down below as well. But let's get back into Unity. Okay, so we're back into Unity, and we basically have done this entire episode. So if we just have a look at our script quickly, we can just see all we've done is in here we've added some checks for some touches and made it so it works with touch controls. And the only thing we had to do besides that was add in a new button, because buttons work with touch controls and our other function didn't. So we just removed that and replaced it with that, and installed some software so that you can get it all working and run through all the kind of settings that you would need to actually get it running on a phone. I hope this has been helpful. If it was, please like the video, and if you have any questions or just any feedback, comment below. Hope you have a good day. Please subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.